My country is dying.
My country is flooding.
My corals are bleaching.
My country is changing.
My country is struggling.
My country is running out of time.
My islands are disappearing.
Peace Boat's Ocean and Climate Youth Ambassador Program set out to bring young leaders from small island developing states on the front line of climate change and ocean degradation together. Peace Boat, as an organization, we try to give people the opportunity to learn about issues from those that are really experiencing it. Perhaps when we started out the program, there was an emphasis on bringing the voices of small island developing states to the so-called developed world and sharing the message that from the front line of climate change.
The reason we're known as a small island developing state is because each one of us face similar issues when it comes to climate change and sea level rise. We have coral bleaching, our sea level temperatures are rising, and therefore hurricanes become more frequent in our parts.
The whole world knows Maldives as a beautiful country, as a paradise of the world and such, which is true, but that will not be the case in the near future. Maldives consists of 99% sea and 1% land, so which means geographically speaking, Maldives is already a very small and fragile country, and with the increase of sea level rise, it erodes the remaining 1% that we have in our country.
In Seychelles, 3 of the main islands, in total they have 62 beaches, and 33 of them has been heavily eroded due to climate change.
Hola, my name is Kaya.
We are all facing similar impacts in terms of increased cyclone presences, increased flooding, increased coastal erosion, increased sea inundation, which is causing further impacts in terms of droughts, crop growth, food security, water security.
So, and now I think most important action, one of the action is to really bringing the voice from the small islands to the world and how much dangerous situation they are in, and also that's how they're struggling but to survive or to build a sustainable society in their own island.
greatest environmental issue as a global community. It does not discriminate, and therefore no one is immune to it, to its impact. Although countries like mine, climate change isn't about losing money. It is about our survival. Our lives are at stake, and we call on the international community to jump on a crisis.
We went to Lisbon, where we did presentations for an audience, and I learned a lot about what is happening in the other small island developing states, like Kiribati and the Marshall Islands. It was really eye-opening for me, because coming from Trinidad and Tobago, you'd find that a lot of people don't have the same connections with the environment. And one thing Matthias said that really stood out to me was that for some people, climate change is an economic issue, but for them, it's really a matter of survival. And where I come from, that's what it is. At least right now, it's an economic issue. I felt kind of bad that we don't really take it so seriously in Trinidad and Tobago. Meanwhile, other people, other similar small island developing states are having such a hard time where it's literally a matter of survival.
I will be talking not just about climate change, but also about the nuclear testing that happened in the Marshall Islands when we were under the US. So now there is a dome in the Marshall Islands that has been built to put all of the nuclear waste that from the bombing into this dome. But now this dome is cracking, and now a lot of the nuclear waste are pouring out of the dome and pouring into the water. So you can imagine what would happen with the sea level rising and the constant erosion of this dome, how it will affect the environment.
Less 20 hours, we lost 5-10 meters. That's really interesting.
So we've been learning a lot from Jérôme, the photographer, about the climate impacts felt here in Lucknow. And specifically, he's been telling us a lot about how there's a big decision on whether to protect the shoreline using this system of rock or to relocate their entire town. I think for us, coming from small island states, it's been really eye-opening to see that the impacts that we're facing at home aren't endemic, and that there are places all over the world and even here in France that are facing very severe climate impacts, and it's not spoken about, it's not talked about. But I think more people need to learn that the problem isn't in some faraway ocean, but it's right here on their front doorstep.
I've been taking pictures for UNDP for the past 4 months now, and I've been traveling to a lot of islands within the Maldives, and I've been able to witness a lot of dramatic changes that are happening in our islands that's being unnoticed and that are being unspoken in a national level. And in Maldives currently, the government has not been taking any actions regarding this issue. And as you can see, there are a lot of garbage and rubbish accumulating in our waters, and the coral reef systems are being damaged, where a lot of fish habitats. And our islands are made of corals, and they also protect our islands from erosion and tides. But with the damages caused to the corals, our islands become even more vulnerable to climate change. And as you can see, as islanders, we really depend on the ocean for survival. Our fishing is our second main economy, followed by tourism. And I hope that these images will speak for itself in an international audience and hopefully push the policymakers in creating changes within the country. Even if the whole world goes 100% renewable, tomorrow, it will still take a few decades until the atmosphere can recover from the damage that we've done so far. And Maldives will not survive that process. It's always the young people, the NGOs that are doing something in Maldives. But without the help of policymakers, we cannot make any dramatic changes. And what we need right now is dramatic changes, especially in the case of Maldives.
I was invited by the Peace Boat to participate in an event in one of the ports in London to meet with the ocean ambassadors who were on board, but also with a broad array of young people from London, from different interests in different sectors in London, to discuss the relationship between oceans and climate change, but more than anything to discuss the urgency of addressing climate change due to the high vulnerability of those people who live on low island states. The event was, I think, was a very moving event because it was a very open, sincere conversation where certainly the ambassadors shared the reality of their home, shared the urgency with which the rest of the world must come together. And I think I was very impressed with the openness of the audience that was actually also young people. Hence, I again reaffirmed my faith that it is the young people who are going to set us on the correct course.
And here we are now in 2017. Now, the good news is that for 3 years, as we were saying yesterday, for 3 years we've been flat in our mission. And now the question is, what happens after this? If we follow this curve, which is what we've been doing for 100 and something years, if we go up, we are majorly screwed. Because the moment you go beyond 2020 and go up, this means you go anywhere between 2.5 at the best to 6 degrees.
Meeting Christiana Figueres, someone who has held, very senior positions within the UN, has been very inspiring. Her eloquence has very pushed us to really see the bigger picture of what world issues are playing at present and how we can push our agenda for climate action or life underwater during this critical stage. And what I like about her is that she doesn't like to see anything impossible, and she pushes through.
And at the same time, we have to continue to inspire people and to be optimistic and to shine a light on the solutions. Because if we only shine a light on the problems and the absolute dire effects, we're not going to move forward.
For us, she came on board at a time when we were really starting to deal with a lot of hard questions and seeing a lot of people who were saying that climate change hasn't happened in my country or it's not happening at all, or giving us some of the hard questions, so making us really have to assert and challenge our position. And so I think spending time with her really reinvigorated us and really reminded us why we are here and why we are doing this. And I think that her words about being a stubborn optimist are really going to stay with us forever, essentially. Because two parts, like you have to be stubborn to ensure that the fight carries on, but you also have to be optimistic that there is an end goal, that there is something positive at the end of all of this.
Have family and friends on each of your islands. Now, the world will tell you that the feat of guaranteeing survival for everyone on your island is impossible. I tell you, never give up. Never give up.
Pleasure here in the Scottish Parliament to receive such an auspicious audience of people from around the world, from Peace Boat, and talking about getting rid of nuclear weapons from the world, having a world free of nuclear weapons, but also talking about climate change and about how the two of those issues work together. Was very moving. It was something which was quite emotional actually, but at the same time it was intellectual because it made you think about what we can do and about how we can stand together to stop things such as the rising of the oceans, about climate change, and that nuclear weapons have caused a large part of the problem, and that we can all work together to ensure that that problem ceases, and then humanity will be a better place for that.
Iceland lies on top of the North Atlantic Oceanic Ridge, where the Earth's surface plates are parting at an average rate of 2 centimeters a year. Individual fissure swarms are termed volcanic systems.
It's incredible. It's amazing how much they're doing and how they're really thinking outside of the box and really that they use the resources that they have, but in a sustainable manner.
It's interesting.
It's inspiring.
Yeah, it is. Especially since this island was able to produce 100% of electricity, and smaller countries in Europe, and they have the ability to do something like that, and they're not.
I think that the peaceful, the venue, floating the venue, is the best venue that really to feel the importance of the nature of this, the world, this planet, and at the same time to know about the crisis, what's going on by the climate change, and to promote about the motivation to take action. For us, that's still I'm not satisfied at all. The present Peace Boat voyage, because unfortunately this ship, our ship now is a conventional ship and using the fossil fuel. And the cruise is now become very popular, but unfortunately that the cruise industry is not so enthusiastic to invest for the eco technology. So, and I think that we have the responsibility to promote more ecological, sustainable cruise. So why not we try to make a symbolic the ship to sail all over the world with a message of the peace and sustainability. That is the eco ship.
I think the youth, having spent 3 weeks on board Peace Boat, I have an impression that they are inspired to continue working, doing the great work that they're doing. And importantly, they've met people along the way who are involved in the same struggle. There's a feeling that everybody needs to work on this issue, and they are working on this issue. So they've built networks. They've built networks from the countries they've visited, the people that they've met on board and within each other. And I think that is something, a big achievement from the project.
My colleagues and I are very privileged to have been selected as the pioneers of the Ocean and Climate Youth Ambassador Program. We have traveled around Europe on board Peace Boat, sharing our stories and making testimonies about issues related on climate action and life underwater. I hope our presentation tonight will do justice.
In the last 3 weeks, I think many of us in this program have learned a lot, not just about becoming more familiar with the climate impacts that are happening at home in our own countries, but also gaining a better familiarity and understanding of what our colleagues in other countries are facing, whether they be similar impacts, which there are a lot of, and also differences that are also happening in their countries, and either learning from the positive or negative experiences of those. But I think for many of us as well, it's been very eye-opening that we know where we are on a map, but for a lot of people, they don't even know we exist. Not only are we having to advocate on climate issues that are happening in our countries, but we're having to start from square one. We're having to tell these people, we exist, we're on a map, here we are, these are the impacts that we're facing. Because you can't save something if you don't know it exists, and you can't fight for something if you don't know that it's suffering, that it's having these climate impacts.
Looking out my window, there sits my grandparents and my mama's graves. White rectangle they are closeted in, it's inside, gray and still. My backyard is the 4-meter history of waves crashing and breaking seawalls built with uncles, brothers, and grandpa's sweat. That one great wall 2 meters high, my family's only protection from the water, made a mockery as the water has risen level with the land and spilled over human debris, weaving a remnant, a reminder of human beings' greediness. To the developed countries, to the advanced nations, you think you know us, but you know nothing at all. Should I tell you what is happening in my backyard? What is that? You think you already know? You think you know better? No, you have no say. You have had yours when the man from the military said, testing nuclear weapons, 67 of them on tiny strips of land with many parts barely a meter above sea level is for the good of mankind and to end all world wars. How many wars have ended now due to nuclear weapons? How many? How many innocent lives killed? Remember March 1st, 1954, when they dropped the Bravo bomb? Bravo! Ever famous for leaving their mark behind like the mark on my home. The Marshall Islands is now a wary mother of a dome, all from the bombing for the good of mankind. With a sign that said, do not return for 25,000 years, it has been 63 years. We have 24,963 years left until we can go back home to ruin it. The island, the land, this dome burdens. But now the waters have washed this sign away, eroding parts of this dome away, cracking and leaking harmful radiations out into the open. So foreign men who visited the dome to study it say the outside is more contaminated than the inside. And they leave again with numbers and calculations, no solutions, not a thought for us. Foreign men, do you think about my island's drowning? My island ain't got no time for 24,937 years. Scientists have predicted by 2050 we are no more. No more. 2017, I am here. My island's got 33 years left. 33. But in 24,937 years, we will be able to go back to ruin it. How far do you think she will be underwater? Looking out into horizons of waves, angry, hungry for redemption, a boo-boo sits on her plywood 10-inch iPad. She looks at me, sadness and confusion in her eyes. What is wrong with our islands? I don't ever remember seeing it like this.
It hits me, she does not know. She does not know what is happening in our islands, not knowing these waves pounding our shore are human-induced. I swear, I will fight for this grandma. I will fight for my family, and I will fight for my country's survival. For bigger countries mock us after they have violated the earth's virginity with their carbon-filled aphrodisiac, digging and pumping out fossil fuel from our mother's womb, relentlessly, constantly mocking us. At 1.5 degrees, at the risk of my people becoming climate change refugees, becoming stateless, becoming landless, becoming just a blue passport. The only identity of this grandmother and me. My backyard is not like your backyard. My backyard is trees crippled. It is broken bones unearthed from graves. It is nuclear radiation rich. It is tides with white fangs. It is houses broken down, no more occupants within. It is the land getting smaller and smaller.
Bravo!